Did you know it's Friday? Therefore, it is Friday morning coffee. I'm so glad you're here. We have quite the entourage, none of whom I knew were coming. But welcome. We're so glad you're here. We have John Gentry, who is the Assistant County Administrator, and assorted other important people, and we're happy to welcome them to LVE. So, John, I will let you take over, and as you are speaking, please just introduce yourself if you would. I'd appreciate it. Thank you, John. Oh, you have a mic.
I got one, yes, ma'am. Well, good morning, everybody. How are you doing today? Well, thank you, first of all, for the main reason there's a whole entourage is we heard you were offering coffee and blueberry muffins. So if you wouldn't offer blueberry muffins, it would have probably just been me. Yeah, absolutely. So we're excited to be here and have an opportunity to inform you about what's going to be on this next SPLOS that we all have an opportunity to vote for. So I'm going to cover a couple of things, and then we're going to shift our original programming just a little bit because Glennis Barnes with the Chamber, he's got to scoot out to help a neighbor of his in short order. So, but I did want to introduce myself, and then after Glennis speaks with the Chamber, then I'll be able to go through things a little bit for you and be able to answer some questions. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Glennis to lead us off. He's with the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. I'm mic'd up. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Great. Good morning. I'm Glennis Barnes, and I'm the immediate past chair of the Greater Hall Chamber of Commerce, and I've been selected to also lead our SPLOS initiative that we're doing this year. And I'm glad to be here today. It's a beautiful facility. Good to see you all this morning. One of the things, like John talked about, the way the program normally goes is that John educates you about the SPLOS and what it does and the different programs that it supports. And then I come in and I ask for your vote on SPLOS. And that's why I'm here today. I'm here to ask you to support SPLOS. And the reason why I'm asking you to support it is because, you know, the SPLOS has been around since 1985. And since 1985, that program has brought in $1 billion to Hall County for our roads, bridges, support, infrastructure, and everything. And of that $1 billion, 40% of that is supported by people who come and visit our lakes, visit Lake Lanier, visit our parks, or come here for other reasons. But you think about it, 40% of that is brought in by people from outside our community. So that helps us. So the burden is not on the taxpayers here. And what else SPLOS does, it helps keeps our property taxes lower here because of the sales tax. When you think about it, there's 159 counties in the state of Georgia. 157 of those counties have a SPLOS. So let's say if our SPLOS doesn't pass, we lose that penny. But when you go outside of our territory to any other county, whether you go to Gwinnett or Dawson, or you're paying for their SPLOS. And so people who go visit them, they're paying for it. So one of the reasons why we do the program here is because it's good for our community and it helps pay for infrastructure that people outside our community use. And Zach Probst, who's our county administrator, he gives a good example right down there at Jesse Jewell every morning. 55,000 cars pass through that intersection every morning and every evening. So you think about, that's a great number of people that come in and out every morning through that intersection. And another good example was in Flowery Branch at the Stonebridge Mall right there at 985 in Spout Springs. From January of this year through July of this year, they had 3.1 million visitors visit that shopping center. And of that 3.1 million, only 48,000 of those people were from Flowery Branch. That's right there in Flowery Branch. So think about the number of people who visited that mall that come from outside of the community. So that's right at 3 million people. There's about 14 million that visit Lake Lanier every year that come in from all over. I mean, you can see the boats lining up 985 coming in from all areas throughout the region. So It's a great program. It's been great for us, and I'm a big supporter of it. And I ask that you please support the program because it's great for our county. It's not raising the tax. It's not an additional tax. Our tax is 7%. This will keep it at 7%. You know, there's some people out there saying, I don't want an additional tax. It's not an additional tax. It's just keeping what we have going forward. And there's a sample ballot that John to go through and some things that, there's a sample ballot on the back of one of the sheets that John to give you today, but I just ask that you please consider supporting this program and keep it going because it's been great for our county. The new program is going to be over 6 years if it passes. It's going to bring in $440 million to our community over the next 6 years. And when you think about that, 40% of that $440 million is $176 million that will be coming into our county from people outside of this community. So it's a great program, and I just encourage you to open your hearts and let's keep it going. And you know, it keeps our property taxes low, it keeps the millage rate low for our Hall Countyans, and keeps that pressure off of property taxes. So I'm gonna pass it back over to John. John's gonna educate you on a couple of the projects that are listed in the upcoming SPLOS, and I ask for you to please support it. Thank you.
We do have some flyers, information flyers.
Yes.
There's some flyers that'll be in the back of the room, but if you'd like one of these, I'll be glad to give you one this morning. Thank you for your attention, and we appreciate you. Oh, I'm Tim Evans with the Greater Hall Chamber of Commerce, and I brought the flyers this morning.
Good. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it.
Well, I'm retired military, and the one thing you do when you're doing an instruction, you always do a check on learning. So let's see if you paid attention to what Glennis just said. What did he say the sales percent was? And guess what, after we vote, what it's going to be? It's not going to change. All right, we're good. Glennis, you got at least one of those. All right, let's see if you heard the second one. He said that the SPLOS in Hall County has been around for how long? Since 85, so 40 years. Outstanding. Give yourselves a big hand on that one. So it is. This is a continuation of it. It's not a new tax. So that's one of the education components that we've been really trying to make sure citizens understand. This is not a new tax. It's a continuation of the sales tax that we've been paying for quite a while. And so when we vote, there isn't going to be a tax increase. It is a continuation. So let's talk about that in itself. And I will tell you also, I've got plenty of handouts up here afterwards. I wanted you to pay attention to me. That's the reason why we didn't pass them out ahead of time. But everything that I talk about, even if you zone out a little bit and don't catch me, is located on the sheets that I provided for you. Glennis mentioned the sample ballot. The words that are on the ballot are on the back of this. Any information that you maybe want to recall, everybody pretty much is managing a smartphone of some sort nowadays, so there's a QR code, or you can just go to the Hall County website and get more information. And then there's some hard cards that will be available to stick in your hip pocket, your coat pocket, pull out if you're talking in a group and you want to debate with somebody and somebody you think might be spreading some false information. You can prove them wrong that way. So they'll be available. So when we talk about Hall County itself, why is SPLOS so important to us? With the growth that our community is seeing, the one thing that it is, if we're able to pass on those large capital infrastructure type projects to a sales tax versus the burden being placed on the property tax, that is very helpful because our community is growing very significantly, and we don't expect that to decrease anytime soon. Why? Because this is a great place to live. And whenever you got great things going on in a community like Hall County, guess what? Other people want to be a part of that. So that tells us a couple of things. We've got to prepare for that. And how do we prepare for that? Unfortunately, we've got to build for that. And we'll go through some projects about that. So one of those significant projects that we have, and I'm going to turn it over to Jason Stevenson here in a minute, so we've got different levels of projects. So our Tier 1 and Tier 2 SPLOST projects are really county-wide type projects. They are really large projects that we need all of the cities and the county residents to really pitch in to ensure that we take care of those particular type projects. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Jason Stevenson, and he is with our county courts administration. So Jason?
Thanks, John. My name is Jason Stevenson, and I'm the Circuit Court Administrator for the Northeastern Judicial Circuit. So I try to handle a lot of the business side of the court. Meanwhile, our judges can focus on the cases that are in front of them. But with me today is our Chief Superior Court Judge, Jason Deal, who I'll let speak in just a minute, or whenever he wants to. He can interrupt me.
You're doing great. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know better. A long-time public servant and who has been in here in Hall County for a long time. My family and I have been here for 10 years. How many of you are Hall County natives? A few of you. Most of you are transplants. And have been, okay, now I'm louder. I'll be careful. Don't let me talk too loud. My wife tells me I'm too loud sometimes. That population growth chart, if you can read it, that's from 1990 to 2060. And so I was part of that wave 10 years ago where the population almost 120% increase from 1990 to 2020. That's astonishing growth. And many of you are part of that growth if you've been here for a few years. And what that's done for our court system, we built a courthouse in Hall County in 2001 that almost immediately the county outgrew. And over the last 25 years, every 3 or 4 years, the court system goes and says to the county, we're out of space. And so right now, we're operating out of 9 different buildings at 5 different locations. And Judge Deal would probably tell you you don't want to see them in court, because if you're at the courthouse, you've either been arrested, divorced, or got jury summoned. But there are other good reasons to be there, and the sheriff's office last year did about 400,000 screens at the front door of the courthouse and the main annex. And we're just busy and out of space. Those 9 different buildings include a public defender's office across the street. They ran out of space and had to lease a building next door on the Gainesville Square. The Treatment Services Agency, our drug court, mental health court, it's the largest agency in the state, and they've got a building out Browns Bridge Road. It used to be a racquetball court. We turned it into 40 offices. Not a lot of windows, no windows, but we made do with it. Our pretrial services, our in-house probation department, our annex, our clerk of court's office operates out of 3 different buildings. He's got his real estate deed room, his primary office, and then Main Street storage where he stores most of his files. And over the last 7 years, we've added 5 judges. And over the next 2 to 3 years, the state has done an analysis of our workload, and they come back and they tell us you're doing the work of so many judges. Well, over the last year, they've looked at our Superior Court judges and said our 5 Superior Court judges are doing the work of 6.7 judges. And our 3 state court judges are doing the work of 4.5 state court judges. And they've both recommended at the state level that we immediately add new judgeships. Well, the challenge for the court administrator office is there's nowhere to put new judges or their staff or the prosecutors or the defenders or the clerks, because there's no more office space. In fact, we have converted a closet recently on the 4th floor of the courthouse. Our former chief judge retired, and we cleaned out his office and put in 4 cubicles in that office. Again, no windows, but there are now 4 full-time clerks operating out of that closet. Judge Deal during COVID started doing night court, partly to assist the participants in that program who worked during the day, But it sure has been great because it alleviates the pressure on the courtroom system during the day. And he stays every week Thursday night till 7 or 8 o'clock doing night court. We also have another Superior Court judge that travels out to the Correctional Institute and holds court out at the state Department of Corrections prison, so that, in part, we have a free courtroom at the courthouse. The Superior Court is now the 5th busiest Superior Court circuit in the entire state of Georgia. We're the 10th largest county, 5th largest circuit with Hall and Dawson County. Our state court, which is just in Hall County, is the 7th busiest state court, and our Hall County Clerk of Courts office is the 6th busiest Clerk of Courts office in the entire state of Georgia. That wasn't true 5, 10, 20 years ago, but as folks continue to move here, and the number of visitors that we have to Lake Lanier, the hospital system, the number of businesses that operate out of Hall County, we are rocking and rolling at the court system. And a justice system is essential. You got to have it. And so one of the biggest project on this SPLOS list, and then Judge Deal will speak for just a minute, the biggest single project is for new courthouse space, because there's no building that the county has that they can put us in. And so we're going to have to do some vertical construction and add new space. There's $125 million earmarked in this SPLOS program, plus a $20 million parking deck facility that would get us started on additional courtroom space. Judge Deal, I'll let you add to any of that.
He stole everything I was going to say. I'm Jason Deal. I'm the Chief Superior Court Judge, and pretty much grew up here in this county. I've been here since I was 5 years old. Graduated from North Hall High School right down the road here. And so I live in North Hall now. I have a little cattle farm over on Nopone Road. As far as just a couple of things that I'll add to this. One, the courthouse is important for any community. And, you know, people will say, well, I'm not going to get in trouble, and I'm over 70, so I don't have to serve on the jury if I don't want to. I can tell the clerk I don't want to come. I'm not planning on getting divorced, so why do I care about the courthouse? Well, that's some valid point, but, you know, the probate court is in the courthouse. And everybody ends up in probate court sometime. If you want to get a wedding license, you got to go to probate court. If you want to get a gun license, you have to go to probate court. If you're a victim of a crime, you want somebody to be there. If you're involved in an automobile accident, or if you have a medical issue where you need to file suit against somebody, all that happens in the courthouse. So it's more than just crime that we handle in the courthouse. It's important for the entire community. If you buy property, you got to file it with the clerk in the courthouse. So we're to the point where it is a need, not a want. I'll tell you that we have tried to maximize the space like Jason said. And in speaking about the SPLOST, I'll give you one example. In my office, I have 5 people, including myself, that work in my specific Superior Court office. Of those 5 people, 2 of those employees live outside the county. One lives in White County and one lives in Banks County. Now they drive to work every day and they do their shopping in Gainesville. They should help pay the tax. They're using the road. But you know, they don't pay any property tax in Hall County. Instead, I get to carry that load on my 15 acres where I got some cows because they don't pay property tax in Hall County. When I go to Dawson County, which is part of our circuit, and I buy lunch over there, I pay the sales tax for Dawson County. And I think that's one of the arguments that the county has made, is just that we have lots of people coming to this county and maybe they should help pay for it. All that traffic on 60 coming from Dahlonega, you know, maybe they ought to help pay for some of the road improvements. That's for y'all to decide. I just want to assure you that we are in a bind, and we are doing everything we can to deal with that. And like Jason said, I do night court every Thursday night in Hall County because of COVID. Here's what happened. When COVID happened, they said, we got to separate people out. We can't have them so close together. So we had to split up our courtrooms. And, you could only have 2 judges going at a time because the courtroom space, we had to divide people up. And I'm like, well, I have to do drug court every week. How am I going to do that? And so I said, well, we'll go to night court. That way I'm not interfering with jury trials. Well, COVID stopped, but there was such a push for courtroom space that vacuum got filled up. And there's really not an opportunity for me to do drug court in the daytime now. I mean, it's convenient for my participants too, but it really is a space thing as well. And so we've done that. The problem is there are some things you just can't do in night court, right? Can you imagine getting a summons for jury trial that you're a juror? Can you imagine getting that summons in the mail when it says show up at 6 o'clock tonight and be ready to stay here till 2 o'clock in the morning for the rest of the week? I think I'd have a riot on my hands. If I can just hear the lawyers, if I said, well, we're going to start court at 6 o'clock tonight, y'all just come on and we'll hear that divorce case and we'll see how it goes. I'm sure I would get a lot of kickback. So there's some things that we just have to do it in person, and we need to do it during normal business hours, and there's only so much space. I know that we're trying to maximize the space that we have. For instance, the clerk, they mentioned the clerk. The clerk has tried to go to a paperless system, so all of the documents are scanned in. The ones that he's allowed to, he scans them in electronically so they don't have to use storage space for those documents. Now, he can't do that for everything, but he's done that for a lot, and that's allowed them to have more space. The DA's office, when I was the DA years ago and had this big, nice file room with all these rolling cabinets that had all these files in it, I went down there, I guess in the last 6 months or so. They digitized as many of those files as they could and got them out of there because they got people sitting in the file room working. Because there's just no space. So we're just one project. The courthouse is just one project on this SPLOST list. It is just one of the tier 1 projects. And so we wanted to come and tell you about why it's there, why it's needed. And after John gets done with all he's got all the good slides and all the good stuff to tell you about. But after that, if y'all have any questions, we'd be happy to stick around and answer questions about the courthouse project.
Thank you, Judge Deal. Check on learning. Hall County is the 10th largest in the state, and our circuit is the 5th largest. There you go. So that tells us a lot, doesn't it? So we talk about that Tier 1 project. Of course, is the courts themselves, $125 million. We hope we have a need right now for 300,000 square feet. The goal is during this initial construction to get somewhere around the 400,000 square feet, but ultimately we have a need by 2050 of 600,000 square feet that we believe that is needed to carry the courts into the future. So we're working towards that, but we got to start somewhere. Another one of those bigger type projects that we all, as citizens and visitors alike, want to make sure that we support related to our 911 upgrades and our judicial complex parking deck, which goes along with supporting the courthouse expansion, and then ambulance replacement. So ambulances right now, if we order it today, it might take 2 to 3 years before it actually comes in. So it's such a high demand, and they're an expensive item. So keeping a fresh fleet of ambulances. So Hall County pretty much provides all of the ambulance service throughout the county. and we've got excellent hospital system, and it requires emergency technicians, medical technicians to really support that, and they've got to have the right equipment, and we've got to be able to replace that equipment as we see fit. Some of you may not be as familiar with this particular project as well, which is another what we call Tier 2 project. It's a county-wide type project. Is our Highlands to Islands Trail expansion. And what that does, it starts in the downtown of Gainesville. And the eventual goal, I guess the master plan part of that, is it will carry, it'll be a trail. It's an 8-foot wide trail going all the way to Lake Lanier Islands. And, but it doesn't mean you got to start there. There are multiple places where you can hop on that trail and just utilize it throughout, which will be is great that our community is having the vision to look at greenways like that to be a part of our community. So the next phase will carry it from approximately the airport area down to North Georgia College. So that's what this money is for. And then when we go into other projects, so after you take out, the total is $440 million. When you take out those Tier 1 and Tier 2 projects, the rest is divided up amongst the cities and the county itself based on population. So where the population percent is, the county obviously being the larger of all of those municipalities, receives $177 million. And then our projects that we're proposing for this SPLOST are really in 3 primary categories, and you'll see that when I show you the cities as well. Road improvements is one of the largest categories. Park improvements, parks and leisure, and the other one is in the emergency services side of that. And then other building improvements that we need. So a couple of highlights from the county's SPLOST projects. And again, the cities and the county came together in an intergovernmental agreement to agree on this 6-year SPLOST is what this is. So this would be 6 years of collection, so that's the reason why that number is a little bit higher. But road resurfacing, you see, is a large amount that is a part of that $177 million. Spout Springs Road is one of those main corridors that we have in the county. Phase 1 made it from 2-lane to 4-lane. It goes back to 2 lanes, so the goal here is in Phase 2 is that we get it all the way to 4-lane down to Friendship Road. Is much needed. Intersection improvements, there are some scattered about, and I'll show you those here in a minute. The big ones that we all are looking forward to are intersection improvements along McKever Road. So if you've been down McKever Road, a 2-lane road, heavily trafficked between Gainesville and Flowery Branch. So that one is one of the top ones. In the South Hall, we're going to add a new park. And in that is going to be an active life center. That active life center is more of, it's not a dedicated senior center, but the intent there is to really look at across the spectrum of age and how we could utilize that. So a combination of elements of a senior center, and then also gyms for youth, and activity rooms as well. It'll have trails and some ball fields in addition on different phases, as well as I'll show you here just an initial concept master plan that will also add a future aquatics facility. And then sheriff's training facility, the one thing our sheriff is third largest, if I recall, third largest sheriff's department in the state, primarily because we don't have a county police, so our sheriff has a huge responsibility. If you go back to that graph that I showed you earlier about the growth of the community, is the reason why the sheriff's training facility is really important. It's dated, it's small, it's in the firing range is in a location that's really encroaching on them for industrial development, so we need to move their firing range to make sure they're shooting in the proper direction, away from some of that industrial development, and then also just for continuation training, so constant training and improvement of our officers, making sure they've got the finest training possible. We've got the fire station that is located right there at Brownsbridge Road, and McKever is dated as one of our first major fire stations. It's just old, but it's in the right location. We need to replace that one, so we'll demo it in place and build a new one right there where it is. If you haven't been out to Healand's Head Mill Park, next spring, I really encourage you. That would be a great road trip, by the way, is to take a bus load or van load or convoy out in your cars and really go back into a step in time. It is a working grist mill. So if any of y'all know how to grind corn, we need some help. We're not sure about that. It is very workable right now to be able to do that. But it's just a great step back in time and a beautiful part of our community. Sardis Creek Park is just on the other side of the lake. It's one of those Army Corps parks that we have taken on in a long-term lease and managing, and we're going to improve it as well. And a lot of other park improvements. I mentioned intersection improvements. There's a spackling of what those are, anywhere from McKever Road to down to SR State Route 11. Mount Vernon Road also at Rilla Road is close to this area as well, and Mount Vernon at Jim Hood Road. So it just gives you a little bit, so spreading it out as much as we can to improve our areas. I'm going to scoot through these here pretty quick just because they're graphics. They're kind of hard to see from a distance. Park improvements are just general park improvements altogether. You know, when you build something, it gets old and it needs to have some improvements. So in order to maintain them at a certain level. So each of these parks and each of the commission districts will see some level of park improvements throughout this next SPLOST period. I know very hard to see in there, but this is let's see if it's going to show. The green one's not going to show up on here. But anyhow, this is the South Hall Park, that Active Life Center, multi-generational type facility. Will be up near the front on Spout Springs Road. Where you see that green rectangle, this was an older version of the master plan. We just needed a graphic to go in here. Is actually where that future aquatics facility is going to go. The vision for that is a competition pool for our high school athletes, recreational swim teams, as well as a therapeutic pool. So we want to put a therapeutic pool in there as well for to support our multi-generational programming. Up 9 to 12 pickleball courts we believe can fit in there. And then you can see some baseball, softball fields on the backside. In addition, there's 6 miles of trails that will go in that as well. I mentioned Sardis Creek Park, a lot of improvements. I encourage you to go out and visit that park. That's another good day trip. Take it out there and take a group out there and just go for a picnic. So the old farmhouse is right there on the point. We've taken over that farmhouse. It's undergoing some renovation right now, and our Parks Administration will actually move out there, and so it'll be a working old farmhouse. It's really a neat place, great place for a picnic. We're going to partner with both Lula and Gillsville to improve parks in their cities. We need ball fields, and they've got ball fields, and their ball fields are not in good condition. So we're going to utilize SPLOST to be able to upgrade those facilities there in Lula, at Rafe Banks, and Gillsville City Park as well. So really partnering with our municipalities to help improve. Now what this next slide here, and again it's on also on the handout that I'll leave for you as well. So when you take the rest of that SPLOST money that I mentioned after the Tier 1 and the Tier 2 projects, and we spread that out amongst the population, obviously Gainesville is our largest because they have the largest population of our cities. Flowery Branch is our second, and then it goes down from there. So this is how it spreads out amongst the cities. And then these are the highlights of the city projects. What do you see are the themes there? Again, roads, streets, and bridges, sidewalks. They want that's an important part of their SPLOST program. Parks and leisure services, and public safety and other public works type facilities. So all of those are common themes throughout this. These are all the projects that make it special. So a lot of times we've heard SPLOST, SPLOST, SPLOST. Well, what is SPLOST? SPLOST is special purpose local option sales tax. So the special and purpose is these are just large projects that we can't really pay for out of our normal operating expenses. And just as Glenn has said, if we can get 40% of that paid for by other people that are visiting our community, it's a great way to take advantage of that. That was quick. Yes, sir.
All right, wait for the mic, please.
Yep, let me pause there a minute. We want to make sure that the mic goes to your questions, so that, because you're all going to be on camera when you ask your question. So for all of the citizens that weren't able to be here, we can hear you. Yes, sir.
Just a curiosity question. Has SPLOST ever, the approval ever been in jeopardy?
Yeah, not the regular SPLOST. It's my understanding. So I've been here 4 months, so I can answer 4 months worth of it. No, sir. And then, but since it's been around for 40 years, I would say obviously the citizens have supported it. Now, a transportation SPLOST, which was brought to citizens last fall, was not successful. The difference between this SPLOST and what was a T-SPLOST, the transportation SPLOST, is the transportation SPLOST would have added a 1 cent, so it would have gone from 7 to 8%. Remember, this is a continuation. This is not really a change. Okay. So good question. Yes, sir.
On a percentage basis, how much does SPLOST supply? In other words, you have funds that may come from federal, state, property taxes. And on a percentage basis, what is SPLOST compared to the total?
Well, I'm going to try to answer that in a couple of different ways. So our maintenance and operational budget, including all the personnel that it takes to run the county, the court system, and everything, we're around $380 million per year. That's 100%. I won't say 100% because there are a few grants, especially in our courts. We're able to get some federal and/or state subsidies there to help pay for some positions. But for the most part, that is paid for with property taxes. If there are excess proceeds that come into property taxes, we will utilize that for capital improvement projects, which are smaller projects like a refresh, painting, or replacing lights in a building per se. From a percent of this SPLOST being spread out over a 6 year period, 100% of this is dedicated to just significant either new construction or significant renovation. So from a percent as a whole, I would say in our annual budget, this probably equates to maybe about 20% per year over the life of this particular SPLOST period. So any SPLOST that we have, so we're currently in SPLOST 8, which was the 8th time that it was reapproved by the citizens. We roughly are spending about 20% of our overall budget is on SPLOST. Does that kind of help answer?
Yeah, but any thoughts as to why the one from last year failed? In other words, people were not willing to add a penny to help maybe, get to work faster, get home faster.
Yes, sir. I think a lot has to do with just the climate as a whole. When you're looking at taxes in general, it also, if you look at when inflation was near the highest it's been in America in quite a long time, so the cost of just your daily living was at probably one of its highest when we voted on that last November. So coupled with just the general anti-government climate that we saw during the last vote, I think there was just, I don't think there's any one thing. I think it was just multiple things that came together. So since that did fail, we've tried to really focus on trying to place a lot of those projects that were a part of T-SPLOS into this regular SPLOS to make sure that we're moving forward. Otherwise, if we don't have this SPLOS, there are a lot of projects on that list that I showed you that we just won't do. There are some that we have to do. For example, the ambulance replacement is going to happen. So we're going to have to pay for that somehow. So it'll be up to the board to decide how we're going to pay for that. So. Other questions?
No questions? Thank you so much. We appreciate your being here. It's wonderful. Thank you. And your entourage.
Yeah. We're on behalf of the county and the entourage, thank you for the opportunity to, again, just share information of what's going on. So we've got the chamber left some of their specific flyers in the back.
In the back, and
then
some up here.
I've got more specific flyers on the projects. You can dive into them. Some of you like to dissect them a little bit more, you're welcome to it. And we're always available to come back and answer questions if you have. But again, thank you very much. And since we're going into the weekend and we got a really big game down in Athens, right? Isn't that right, Mr. Ross? We got a big game down there. Yeah, a little small game between Ole Miss and the University of Georgia. So go Dogs!
Early voting's going on now at the Civic Center.
Absolutely, early voting kicked off this past Tuesday, so it's available and it's easy. It's at the Civic Center, so you can go there all day today, and then it'll be available throughout this period of early voting time, and then there are a spattering of other locations that will open up next week. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.